Tonight, firefights along the Great Ocean Road, townships on high alert, locals told to leave. The latest live from the ground and emergency team.
Also, Nazi protest anger after a clash in Spring Street.
The backlash over a major data hack. Angry customers left in limbo.
Qantas sends a warning to pilots as China is accused of interfering with airline flights.
The MCG facing turf questions over star injuries blamed on grass repairs.
And a sickening injury for a high-flying pie.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Mike Amor and Rebecca Madden.
Good evening. Firefighters are battling a triple threat along the Great Ocean Road tonight with bush blazes near Moggs Creek, Lorne and Kennett River. Some locals told to prepare to leave their homes.
The fires were lit as controlled burns in the days leading up to these extreme conditions. We'll get the latest live from the fire zone soon as emergency crews face a long night. Jade Vincent begins our coverage.
3 fires burning along the Surf Coast, where communities haunted by bushfire disasters are on edge in treacherous conditions.
The trouble is there's only one road in and one road out, and that's the Great Ocean Road.
Thick smoke shrouding the coastline and nearby homes, and flames tearing through dense bushland pose a growing threat. Before 2 o'clock this afternoon, residents at Kennett River were told to leave.
There's a fire, you need to evacuate. There's a fire. Okay, so
Fire crews are closely monitoring blazes near Moggs Creek, Lorne and Kennett River. All 3 bushfires were planned burns, lit in the lead up to a day of extreme fire danger rating and wind gusts of up to 90 kilometres per hour. There are fears what's currently within containment lines could quickly burn out of control.
I'm not going to say they made the wrong call, but I just don't know why they couldn't maybe wait till a bit later in the year.
Controlled burns are an essential part of community protection, and there's only certain times of the year where you can actually do that quite successfully. Today was a spike day. It was quite unseasonal for this time of year.
Hot, dry and windy conditions definitely is a concern out there. Obviously with all the rain we had late last year, there is an enormous amount of grass growth.
Emergency watch and act warnings were issued early this morning to residents near Aries Inlet, extending to Moggs Creek and Big Hill, telling residents prepare to evacuate, and they've spent the day watching and waiting.
It's just a bit eerie because I'm looking to my left here now is a fire truck going past with its lights on.
Heavy artillery flown in from New South Wales to assist in a large-scale response. Residents are hoping it's just pink fire retardant and not flames reaching their homes tonight. Jade Vincent, 7 News.
The biggest threat at the moment is the fire at the historic gateway to the Great Ocean Road. Paul Dowsley is in the fire zone. Paul, what's the latest from there?
Beck, the Memorial Arch, the famous arch on the Great Ocean Road, is the biggest area under threat tonight. Around that is a small township called Eastern View. Next to that, Moggs Creek. You can see it behind me on the hill here. Beautiful spot for houses, but behind there at the moment, a hive of activity in that ridge. You might see smoke there. Helicopters have been whizzing through all afternoon, dropping that red retardant that you can see on the hill there to protect those houses on the ocean front. And they've been doing that for hours and will continue into the night. It is under control at the moment, but most residents in those houses have chosen to evacuate. The watch and act for this area, so Eastern View, Memorial Arch, Moggs Creek and Big Hill, remains tonight. Further along, the watch and act for Kennett River has been downgraded to just advice. The threat there is reduced from a fire that was also a planned burn. There is a third fire on the Great Ocean Road. That's a kilometre north of Lorne. That is, though, under control. There is no threat to residents there. Tonight, the Great Ocean Road remains open. The cool change, Beck, has come through this area. At the moment, it's 22 degrees. The winds have certainly died down.
Hey, Paul Dowsley, thank you.
Let's get an update now from the State Control Centre. We're joined by CFA Chief Officer Jason Heffernan. Jason, thank you for your time. What's the biggest concern in the coming hours?
Look, certainly it's been a challenging day for firefighters who have done an excellent job in communities right across Victoria. It was an extreme day that was predicted. An extreme day is what we got. Melbourne outer suburbs saw 37 degrees, 43 in Mildura, and those hot northerly winds, 80 kilometres to the northern suburbs of Melbourne, and in fact 93 kilometres down on the surf coast where we see these fires at the moment. A lot of challenging efforts by firefighters. We saw a number of fires across the state, but due to the quick action of firefighters and with the assistance of community, we've been able to get on top of them. Those fires on the surf coast are currently being downgraded to advice. So Kennett River residents have been told they can return to their homes, and we do expect the Eastern View Watch and Act to be downgraded and residents be allowed to return in the next 30 minutes or so. So the frontal system has gone through that area, conditions have abated, and we're very confident the conditions will be so that firefighters absolutely have the upper hand and residents will be able to return. However, the frontal system is making its way through the state, and as we go to air tonight, we do have another watch and act, and that's the Goffs Bay fire at Lake Eildon, and a leave now message has been issued to campers in that vicinity. The fire started not so long ago, and under northerly winds has started to grow and develop. So that's a watch and act in Lake Eildon, in particular Goffs Bay for campers, and they've been advised to leave now. Melbourne will cool down very shortly with the cool change hitting the city as we speak. We do expect temperatures to drop about 10 degrees and residents will start to feel a bit of a cool change.
All right, good luck to your crews. Jason Heffernan, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
The city reached 36 degrees late this afternoon and the western suburbs got even warmer. Estelle Greeping joins us now. Estelle, it was hot and windy out there.
Well, Beck, it took a while for the mercury to peak, but it ended up hitting 38 at Point Cook and Laverton and 37 at the airport. Other parts of Melbourne were spared the worst of the heat, but we felt the wind most of all. There were peak gusts of up to 83 kilometres an hour at Melbourne Airport and 93 kilometres an hour further out at Aireys Inlet. But the footy faithful didn't let the wind and heat get in the way at Marvel Stadium.
I put a dry hand towel in my freezer, got it out of the freezer this morning, and this is the result.
I've been to the cricket in the heat here at Marble. We survived, so...
In Perth it's regularly over 40 degrees, so our boys will be fine.
Just a typical Perth day, to be honest.
Cooler conditions have now crossed through Melbourne and the temperature has dropped by about 10 degrees in just half an hour. I'll let you know just how much cooler it will get after sport. Beck?
Estelle Greeping, thank you.
There's been an ugly confrontation on the steps of Parliament. Blake Johnson has the details. And Blake, neo-Nazis clashed with up to 5 other protests.
Mike, they walked between groups while completing a well-known Nazi salute, their arms in the air. As you can see, they did it right in front of police, who were preoccupied holding back a group of trans rights activists who were there protesting an anti-trans speaker here on a tour from the UK. The presence of the masked men doing the Nazi salute incited much of the larger crowd, which was already agitated from earlier clashes. The state opposition was quick to condemn the Nazi salute, saying it was nothing short of sickening and must never be tolerated. A Point Cook man was arrested for putting a female police officer in a headlock and a Thornbury woman arrested for slapping an officer on the neck.
Blake Johnson, thank you.
A Melbourne-based finance company is facing a backlash over a major data hack. Latitude customers have told 7 News they've been left in limbo and still don't know what's happened to their confidential information.
Latitude's customer contact centres are still offline, a nasty effect of this week's cyber attack. Jenny received a warning email this morning telling her driver's licence may have been compromised.
It's insane because I've been targeted with Medibank as well.
Cybersecurity insiders say it could take days, perhaps weeks, to understand how bad the hack is.
Until the victim actually does a damage assessment, it's almost impossible to know the breadth and depth of the intrusion or the breach.
Personal details of more than 300,000 customers were accessed.
This attack highlights yet again the need for companies and businesses in Australia to be far better at protecting everyone.
Artificial intelligence, including ChatGPT, makes it easier for criminals to do their dirty work. The future of cybercrime looks a little murky.
voice imitation software with AI, coupled with image replication such as deepfakes, is sufficient to actually fool online know your customer verification and even possibly Centrelink.
Security consultants say Latitude customers should watch all accounts for suspicious activity over the next 4 weeks. Customers want Latitude to communicate more.
They are just asking us to keep an eye. Like, what is their accountability there?
Blake Johnson, 7 News.
Qantas has issued a warning to its pilots over alarming reports of Chinese warships interfering with airline radio and GPS systems. Aviation experts say it could be dangerous and want an investigation.
The waters of the South China Sea have long been contested, but now experts fear China is targeting the skies.
What they want to do essentially is claim that region for their own.
It's been revealed commercial pilots have reported interference in their radio systems as they fly over the South China Sea. Chinese warships are believed to be transmitting messages to the cockpit and, in extreme cases, jamming the GPS.
If they're doing it deliberately, then that's an escalatory, provocative move that could, potentially put in danger a commercial airliner.
The global aviation body is warning pilots not to respond to the warships and immediately report the contact to air traffic control. Qantas has this week also warned its pilots, but added the interference has not caused any safety problems. Qantas 737 captain Mark Hoffmeyer says pilots know exactly what to do should their systems get jammed.
Qantas Group members are well equipped and well trained to be able to manage the situation. We've got a lot of protocols and procedures in place to ensure that safety is not compromised.
Aviation experts agree that radio interference doesn't pose a threat, but say targeting the GPS is serious.
The major thing is it could lead to a grounding.
The federal government is aware of the situation and say that all countries must respect the rights of freedom of overflight and navigation under international law. Jennifer Beshwati, 7 News.
A fourth jockey in 3 weeks has been rushed to hospital in an ambulance following a fall at a major Melbourne race meet. Teo Nugent dropped in and out of consciousness on track before being taken to the Royal Melbourne Hospital for further examination. Racing Victoria says he had movement in his limbs and was talking to medical staff. It comes after Jamie Carr, Craig Williams and Ethan Brown were hospitalised in recent weeks.
It's been revealed that Bruce Lehrmann repeatedly asked friends for drugs on the night Brittany Higgins went public with rape allegations. The former Liberal staffer's text messages have been disclosed in court.
It's February 15, 2021, and Brittany Higgins has sat down with Lisa Wilkinson to tell the Project she was raped in Parliament House by her colleague.
We went up the lift into Minister Reynolds' suite.
At the time, Bruce Lehrmann isn't named as her alleged rapist, but that night he is aware of the allegations. Court documents tabled in the federal court revealing Lehrmann repeatedly asked friends for drugs. Need bags, no one has work tomorrow, let's get lit, you got any gear? Another friend texting, you need to take this seriously, mate. Clear your name, that's all that matters. You only have your name and one name. Lehrmann told his then-girlfriend, we need to keep a close circle. I can't speak very much. I am a pawn, Rick says, as part of a bigger political hatchet job. Lehrmann has always maintained he is innocent. You got any gossip on who the Canberra rape guy is? A friend asked. No idea, mate, in the slightest. I haven't been approached. You would have thought a proper process took place with PMO, etc., to stop it from getting to this, which appears very slanderous and defamatory. I assume it will fizzle. Federal Court Justice Michael Lee must now decide whether he'll allow Lehrmann to sue the media for an interview which was broadcast 2 years ago, extending the 1-year limitation period for a defamation suit. The hearing returns to court on Thursday. Isabel Mullen, 7 News.
Hillsong is handing over the lease of Melbourne's Festival Hall to major music promoter Live Nation. The church bought the iconic venue for $23 million in 2020. Now Live Nation is vowing to return the venue to its position on the global live entertainment map.
The International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin. The Russian president is now officially accused of war crimes, but Moscow has dismissed the move as outrageous.
A serving head of state now also a fugitive. Vladimir Putin and one of his senior officials accused of illegally deporting Ukrainian children.
The judges have reviewed the information and evidence submitted by the prosecutor and determined that there are credible allegations against these persons for the alleged crimes.
According to the International Criminal Court, Putin bears individual responsibility over the decision to remove them, kids taken from their families and homes throughout the war and resettled in Russia. Ukraine says more than 16,000 such cases are under investigation, its president praising the ICC.
This is a historic decision that will lead to historic responsibility. It would be impossible to carry out such a criminal operation without the order of the top leader of the terrorist state.
But the allegations were dismissed by the Kremlin as outrageous and unacceptable, a former Russian president suggesting the warrant be used as toilet paper. The ICC has no power to arrest suspects. It can only exercise jurisdiction in member countries. Russia isn't one of them. In London, Sarah Greenhalgh, 7 News.
Music fans have been left disappointed after tonight's concert with Rod Stewart, Cyndi Lauper and John Stevens was cancelled due to illness. But organisers, Live Nation, wouldn't say which of the stars are sick. Each shared the same statement to their social media pages. The event was planned for Mount Duneed Estate this evening. Another announcement is expected to be made about the concert early next week.
The MCG's surface is under scrutiny with questions about its $1 million turf makeover. Mitch Cleary is at the G tonight. Mitch, the MCC denies there's a problem.
Mike, they're adamant it's in good condition after the latest ground inspection this afternoon. Geelong coach Chris Scott and his club have different ideas after a number of Cats injuries last night. Scott describing the MCG surface as an own goal.
Rolling into Game 3 in 3 days, the MCC says it has no surface issues. The reigning premiership coach disagrees.
It's the best ground in the world, in my view. So to compromise the surface is a strange decision to make voluntarily. It was an own goal, I reckon.
The MCG's biggest ever changeover under fire. A sandpit just over a week ago, Ed Sheeran's Bonanza had more than half of the ground relaid. The AFL, though, ticking off ground inspections on Wednesday and Thursday.
The issue is that there are differences on the ground now. Some bits that are really firm and you can keep your feet, and other bits that are really soft and you can't keep your feet.
Players slipping in the Richmond-Carlton season opener. Geelong star Tom Stewart's knee injured as he lost his feet early last night. Despite Scott's fury, Collingwood had little concern in a rousing 22-point win.
I thought, there was definitely a small difference between the middle of the ground and both ends, but once the ball was bounced, I didn't seem to think that it impacted the game at all.
Pies defender Jeremy Howe sent to hospital with a forearm compound fracture where he remains after surgery this morning.
I'm getting a bit emotional just talking about it, but it's a horrible part of our game.
When you see one of the guys go down, one of the real good guys, you go, oh, that's going to be a cost somewhere.
Mitch Cleary, 7 News.
Well, Andrew McCormack is here with a look ahead to sport. Macca, the Roos, they're up and about.
Oh, absolutely they are, Beck. There's new life under Alistair Clarkson at Arden Street after a stirring win over the Eagles. A new star emerges on debut for the ages, but it was a horror start for a promising youngster. Also, exclusive details as the AFL steps up its search to replace Gillan McLaughlin. A former Roos whipping boy provides the spark as the Power rise to the challenge against a premiership contender. A horror batting collapse rocks the Aussies World Cup preparations in India, and a surgery shock for a star bomber. More on that shortly.
OK, thanks, Macca. A $13 million bottleneck buster for the Burnley Tunnel is getting the thumbs down from drivers.
Also ahead, a Melbourne man's church nightmare revealed.
A major health shock for an Australian star.
And later, from the MCG to the catwalk, a Tigers high flyer turns fashion designer. The story you'll only see on 7 News. Police in Melbourne's west are hunting a 29-year-old man wanted over thefts and driving offences. James Paulson is known to frequent the Werribee, Melton, Hoppers Crossing and Wyndham Vale areas. The suspect is 175 centimetres tall and has a rose tattoo on the side of his neck. Frustrated drivers say the Burnley Tunnel's new pace-setting lights are failing to improve traffic flow.
The high-tech system was turned on this week, but so far it's done little to ease the bottleneck near the tunnel exit.
Racing against the traffic, the Burnley Tunnel's new pacemakers so far offering little more than a light show for motorists, because many admit they don't know how to use them.
Maybe so people don't brake as much, or I don't know. But is there a sign that says what they're doing? I didn't know what a pacemaker light was.
I think it just, shone over the top of the car and that was about it.
The $13 million system is designed to encourage drivers to keep up their pace when exiting the steep tunnel, but there are no instructions before you enter.
When you say pacemaker to a bloke my age, we all go, oh, right, so we're all concerned, right? But, who understands all this stuff, right? And it comes back to how people feel when they're driving in an intimidating situation.
Transport experts say the concept is also thwarted by a steady flow of trucks and semi-trailers that are allowed to occupy all three lanes.
And we get this concertina effect, right? So the truck has to slow down and then he can't get going up the other hill. I absolutely think the truck should be in the left lane.
At the exit, the congestion immediately clears, adding to commuter frustration. Transurban says it's constantly reviewing the data and expects improvements to take time. Bethan Yeoman, 7 News.
A Melbourne man has accused the Hillsong Church of covering up sex crimes and abuse. The former church member went public as financial records detailed lavish spending by its former leader.
Preaching to the converted.
All right, let's stand together, church.
Hillsong pastors dodge growing scrutiny.
It's a celebrity culture. You go to Hillsong Church so you can get closer to the celebrity preachers.
Documents tabled in Parliament revealing Brian Houston's wife Bobby spent $8,000 at Disneyland in California. Almost $2,500 charged to Brian Houston's credit card for dinner at Robert De Niro's Newport Beach restaurant, Nobu. Houston also getting a $30,000 cash gift in March 2020. $15,000 cash for Hillsong's general manager, while current global pastor Phil Dooley was given a $2,000 watch.
Money that was donated for disaster relief ended up going straight into the pockets of ministers.
Despite the spending, Hillsong didn't respond to our multiple requests for an interview, saving their comments for church.
If we've been doing things in an excessive manner, or that are out of alignment with our mission, these things will stop.
But the allegations extend well beyond spending to a culture of cover-up around rape and abuse.
Someone very close to me was raped by someone very close to them. That person was not asked to leave the church. I had pastors attempt to cast gay demons out of me.
Hillsong telling 7 News a formal statement will take a few days.
It's not church. It's, if anything, it's manipulation.
Isabel Mullen, 7 News.
Actor Sam Neill has revealed he's been battling stage 3 blood cancer. The 75-year-old says he's being treated for the disease after being diagnosed a year ago. The actor is now in remission, but he'll have to undergo chemotherapy for the rest of his life. Neill is preparing for his next movie based off the book, Apples Never Fall, which will be filmed on the Gold Coast in coming weeks.
Hollywood is in mourning following the sudden death of actor Lance Reddick. The 60-year-old was best known for his role as Cedric Daniels in the hit television series The Wire. The exact cause of Reddick's death isn't clear, but authorities say it appears to be due to natural causes. He's survived by his wife and 2 children.
Melbourne's property market has been put to the test, with more than 600 homes going under the hammer after 10 straight interest rate rises. The latest next.
Also ahead, a police blitz on teen gangs in Melbourne's southeast and north.
Almost $400,000 in cash found at Melbourne Airport.
And Melbourne set to run for the kids. What drivers need to know before they hit the road tomorrow.
Police have laid more than 3,000 charges following a major operation targeting youth gangs across Melbourne. 67 people were arrested, most are underage. Police say the suspects are linked to 100 offences, including aggravated burglary, robbery, car theft, assault and illicit drugs. Of the 126 bail checks conducted by officers, 1 in 4 weren't complying with conditions. Operation Alliance focused on areas around Croydon, Dandenong, Springvale in the southeast, and Melton, Truganina, Point Cook and Werribee in the west. The reality of 10 consecutive interest rate rises is hitting Victorians, with homes going on the market because borrowers couldn't meet the repayments. The end of a fixed rate term this year means hundreds of thousands more are in for a massive mortgage shock.
As interest rates climb, there was a bidding war for this townhouse in Melbourne's southeast. Victorians are trying to make every dollar count. A couple buying this Melbourne property for $800,000, despite the median house price being $2.8 million.
We're in the market, you see some shifts in the market. The good areas continue to perform.
Some of Melbourne's best value homes close to the CBD are Belfield for $2,600 per square metre, followed by Pascoe South and Preston.
Mortgage affordability has deteriorated quite substantially, and it is potentially a more difficult time to enter the market.
In Mornington, this home was repossessed by the bank after owners failed to pay the mortgage. The property, trashed by vandals, is now up for sale. The generous block overlooking the water, with an asking price of just under $2 million.
The true toll on 10 straight interest rate hikes are expected to become clearer in coming months. Mortgage repayments are expected to double for more than 200,000 Victorian home loans as fixed interest rates expire.
Will be a key test for the housing market and housing market conditions, because a lot of those borrowers will face a substantial increase in repayments.
Renters are also taking another hit, charged an extra $100 plus a week over the past year, pushing more money-conscious people into the buyer's market. Kathleen O'Connor, 7 News.
There's growing speculation Donald Trump will be charged in coming days over claims he paid hush money to keep his affair with an adult film star a secret. Mr. Trump denies the affair ever happened as he begins his campaign to win back the White House.
Outlasting one controversy as he braces for another, Donald Trump returns to YouTube and Facebook. His first post since the January 6th riot prompted social media bans. "I'm back," he says.
"Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business. Complicated."
Not nearly as complicated as the litany of legal threats facing the former and wants to be future president. Mr. Trump saying to those investigating him,
"We have to get our country back. The DOJ, the FBI, the local prosecutors should all stop."
In fact, tonight, one American news service has reported
former President Trump could be indicted as soon as next week.
Donald Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, has told how he made payments in 2016 to adult film star Stormy Daniels. Hush money, he claims, to keep the lid on a sexual encounter years earlier between Trump and Daniels. Cohen is now assisting an investigation into Donald Trump's role in the hush payments.
I met with the DA's office 20 times for interviews and then 2 times for grand jury.
This as details emerge on a planned meeting between law enforcement agencies in New York. Their topic? How they'd handle security around a former president facing criminal charges, a first in American history. In the United States, Tim Lester, 7 News.
A traveller's been arrested after he allegedly tried to fly from Melbourne to Sydney with $370,000 hidden in his carry-on. Federal police say the Korean national couldn't explain why he was transporting so much cash. The 29-year-old was charged, accused of dealing with property reasonably suspected of being proceeds of crime. He was made to surrender his passport and, if convicted, faces up to 3 years behind bars.
Motorists are being warned of major traffic gridlock around the city tomorrow morning. Kathleen O'Connor has the details. Kathleen, it is all for a good cause, though.
It is, Beck. The advice is to consider public transport travelling into Docklands tomorrow, as 3,000 people are expected to participate in the annual fundraiser Run for the Kids. The course runs through some of the city's key locations. Parts of the CityLink and Westgate Freeway will close from 1:30 tomorrow morning, along with sections of Footscray Road, Harbour Esplanade and the Domain Tunnel. The road closures will allow those braving the 14.8-kilometre run to make their way through the Domain Tunnel. All proceeds from the event will go towards the Royal Children's Hospital Good Friday appeal. Participants so far have raised almost $700,000. The event is still one of the largest fundraisers in Melbourne for the Good Friday appeal, helping to raise more than $20 million overall. So best to avoid driving into the city tomorrow until roads reopen after 2:30 tomorrow afternoon. Beck.
Thank you very much, Kathleen.
Police are facing an uphill battle to bolster the thin blue line. Up next on 7 News, why they're struggling to find recruits to protect the state.
Also ahead, an AFL star turns fashion designer to launch his own label.
And no tyre, no reason to stop for a driver in Melbourne's north.
A crash on the Western Freeway brought traffic to a crawl as both drivers continued despite the significant damage to their vehicles. The car and truck collided on the Western Freeway in Derrimut around 11 this morning. The black Toyota continued along the busy stretch of road on its rims. Police say they weren't called to the crash.
Victoria Police is competing with the military and even the hospitality sector in the race to sign up hundreds of new officers. In a bid to find 2,000 new recruits, the force today held its biggest jobs expo in over a decade.
A flood of interest to thicken the thin blue line. A role reversal.
So these are like training handcuffs?
Police helping members of the public with their inquiries.
We've had people actually applying today. They've submitted an application this morning.
The plan to increase police numbers by 500 to 17,000 over 2 years. But to make up for retirements and resignations, they actually need 2,000 recruits.
Every fortnight I need to put 44 people in the academy. So I'm desperately keen to get all those people who are interested engaged and applying.
Desperately competing against recruitment campaigns by the armed forces, interstate police and the hospitality and tourism industry.
That's roughly the weight of our operational firearm. Yeah.
But the Victoria Police application process takes a tedious 9 months.
I own the fact that it's taking too long, so I'm driving to try and find efficiencies.
Initially, Victoria Police recruitment officers were expecting 1,200 people to attend here today, but they were swamped. They've issued 1,700 tickets and they had to stop it at that.
Studying criminology and psychology, so I've always been interested in the police force.
Probably put my application in tomorrow.
Really?
Yep.
All determined to join the police most wanted list. Nick McCallum, 7 News.
A Richmond star is changing his style, debuting his fashion label on the catwalk. Shea Bolton's brand was modelled by his teammates and was one of many from First Nations designers celebrated at the Tigers training ground.
Bolton! Way!
A star in front of more than 88,000 footy fans for the season opener.
Bolton can go in and kick the Tigers second in this half.
Richmond forward Shea Bolton also has style off the field, debuting his fashion label 7 Court on the catwalk last night.
This is a great opportunity for not only Shea, Daniel and all the other boys involved in it, but outside of footy, this sparks another interest for them.
He always comes to the club with all sorts of fashion designs, but now he's lucky enough we get to showcase it tonight.
The streetwear brand was modelled by some of his Indigenous teammates, despite some very limited experience.
I tried, as in like for a laugh, but like not actually like a proper runway, so it's going to be interesting, but it's going to be fun at the same time.
Bolton was one of 6 First Nations designers sharing collections by the boundary at Punt Road.
It's actually a way of taking art off the wall and have it walk the streets, really, and celebrate culture and country.
It's the first event of its kind. The club has committed to continuing it over the next 3 years.
The Indigenous Guernseys, which have been displayed for the past 10 seasons, have always brought Indigenous designers to our game. But what we're seeing here is taking it to the next level. Football and fashion together, I think we can unequivocally say, definitely works.
Hope Wilson, 7 News.
Dozens of bike riders got their legs pumping for charity in today's heat. Riders cycled on stationary bikes for 10 hours to raise more than $50,000 for Ronald McDonald House. Annual Ride for Sick Kids has been running for 13 years, helping sick children and their families. Riders have raised more than $3 million for the Children's Hospital. Great cause.
Andrew McCormack is here with Sport Now. Macca, there's some breaking news on a Cats legend.
Beck, Gary Ablett Sr. has revealed he's been involved in a major health battle. We'll have the details on Gary Ablett Sr. next. Plus, the Kangaroos begin with a bang under Alistair Clarkson. Not before an injury, though, to a promising big man. We'll cross live to the MCG ahead of another round one blockbuster. How the Pies plan to deal with the absence of Jeremy Howe as the wounded Cats fall to unfamiliar territory. And the round one twist as a premiership contender gets torn apart in Adelaide. Welcome back. The injury-depleted Demons will be put to the test in their season opener against the Bulldogs at the MCG tonight. Mitch Cleary is inside the G on the boundary tonight. And Mitch, there's been plenty of hype in the off-season around the Dogs forward line.
Well, Andrew, for the first time ever, it's 4 tall forwards inside 50 for the Bulldogs, while Melbourne will unveil its All-Australian ruck pair, the tag team of Brodie Grundy and Max Gawn, for the first time. They will, though, the Demons be without Stephen May, who put his injured calf to the test today in a searching training session. A major blow against those 4 Dogs tall forwards.
Trained really well today, so was able to get top speed. He was able to, his agility was good. So we're really, really confident that he'll be right for next week. Oh, look, there's no doubt there's a little bit of anxiety about that sort of structure. It's new.
We've probably been training it for about 6 weeks now, so we've seen some really good things out of it. Gives some really good targets. We're a good stoppage side, so we win a lot of stoppages and get that ball forward to those 4 talls. We can cause some damage.
A step forward today in the search for the AFL's replacement for Gil McLachlan as CEO. Richmond boss Brendan Gale presenting to the AFL Commission at around 8 a.m. this morning. 7 cameras were there, as long as Executive General Manager of Football at the AFL, Andrew Dillon, who is the hot favourite to replace Gil in the top seat. News at the Bombers, Peter Wright going in for surgery on his shoulder. He'll miss the first 3 months of the season. And just finally, Andrew, tonight marks the 3,000th VFL AFL game here at the MCG in the grounds, 170th year. Matthew Richardson, the all-time goal scorer, Scott Pendlebury, the all-time games record holder here at the MCG. He might just have a few extra games under his belt after his performance last night. Andrew?
Absolutely. Thanks, Mitch. Meanwhile, life under Alistair Clarkson has started with a bang as North Melbourne held off a fast-finishing Eagles at Marvel Stadium. Nick Larkey kicked 6 goals. Draftee Harry Sheasel lived up to the hype with 34 touches on debut.
The dawn of a new era at Arden Street. The Kangaroos, under Alistair Clarkson, have a win. The perfect start for Alistair Clarkson back at his spiritual home.
To get that belief that that they can get a win, and particularly under a bit of adversity, was a pretty special effort.
Given the opportunity to be the number 1 man in the ruck, this wasn't what Tristan Cherry needed.
It was no good at all.
Relegated to the VFL, dumped veteran Todd Goldstein had a run in a practice match this morning, but now a certainty to come straight back in.
We took a punt and went in with 1 ruckman.
While it was heartache for Wanneroo, top draftee Harry Sheasel dazzled with 8 disposals in the first quarter alone, finishing with 34. North showing plenty of confidence and flair under Clarkson.
Curtis steps in and out of traffic and shows his class with a wonderful finish.
Some fans had a message for the master coach in his new role. 21 points ahead at the main break, Nick Larkey was just getting started.
Larkey's got 3, he'll waltz in, and Nick Larkey's got 4.
They jumped out to a 33-point buffer, the forward unstoppable to start the season.
Looking for 6, Nick Larkey!
7 of the last 9 goals had West Coast threatening late, but the young Roos held their nerve to give Clarko a winning start. Tim Hipsley, 7 News.
Jason Horne-Francis had a dream start to his first game in Port Adelaide colours.
Horne-Francis barging his way through again, getting it deep. Marshall might let it sail on. Oh, they'll go crazy for their new man.
Lions father-son Will Ashcroft showed his class to snap his first AFL goal. Junior Rioli provided an early highlight. He was paid this mark before sidestepping his way to keep the power within reach at half-time, entering the final term. Port Adelaide lead surprisingly by 32 points. Collingwood's Jeremy Howe remains in hospital after surgery on a badly broken forearm. The Pies have already made replacement as the Cats licked their own round one wounds. A round one win over last year's premiers. Could something special be brewing at Collingwood in 2023?
So I had great belief coming into it. I'm driving here going, I'm just really excited for what it could be. It's round one. We've got a long way to go. It is nice to beat the reigning premiers. That's a good start.
The buzz of what might be possible was evident in the Magpie rooms. A touching moment from the Dacos brothers who planted rose petals in the middle of the MCG in memory of their grandfather who passed away last week. Recruit Billy Frampton set to get the call up to replace Jeremy Howe, who remains in hospital after surgery today. Tom Stewart likely to miss a month with a medial ligament injury as Geelong deals with its first loss since May last year.
It wasn't a seamless night for us by any stretch, but not a terrible performance. We're pretty optimistic that we can improve pretty quickly.
A promising night for Ollie Henry quickly turned into a nightmare.
Henry, going to kick another one. No! Run down by Moore. Who lets him know about it?
Well, I didn't want Ollie to go, but he's no longer a Collingwood player. So he's part of the opposition and we went to work on trying to take advantage of that.
The opposition crowd loves it. Good on him. Then he takes a hanger and our crowd goes. I think he handles that stuff really well.
Tom Hawkins nursing a corked calf. Both he and Sam De Koning expected to take on Carlton next Thursday night. Now, in breaking news, Gary Ablett Sr. is the latest former star to reveal details of his battle from the effects of concussion. The 61-year-old has told the Herald Sun he has significant structural and functional brain damage from his 248-game career. The Geelong great claims he was denied financial assistance from the AFL Players Association. The Hayes family have added another major trophy to their illustrious career. Mr Brightside charged home in the All-Star Mile at Moonee Valley.
Mr Brightside in front, and Mr Brightside has won the mile from Cascadian, the inevitable.
A lot of satisfaction. It was so great ride by Luke, and the horse has been threatening to do that all prep, and he was super.
In Sydney, Chris Waller finally trained a Golden Slipper winner as Shinzo took out the $5 million race at Rose Hill. The Aussies' one-day World Cup preparations have taken a stumble in Game 1 against India. There was no David Warner, but Mitch Marsh hammered 81 off 65 deliveries when he departed at 3 for 129. The Aussies then capitulated out for 188 inside 36 overs. The grassy pitch in Mumbai caught them by surprise.
Oh, another wicket.
Didn't sum the conditions up well enough there and bat well enough.
Mitchell Starc had India 4 for 39, but they won by 5 wickets with 10 overs left. Of course, the 50-over World Cup in India for the first time as an entirety in October. And that's all for sport.
OK, thanks, Macca. A cool change has swept through Melbourne after a warm and windy day. Estelle Greepink is here now. And Estelle, have we got more hot weather on the way?
Well, Mike, the rest of the weekend is looking pretty mild. I'll have the details next. Hello again. It's been hot, dry and windy today, but we're now feeling the effects of a late cool change. This is how the day started at Benalla today, where it ended up reaching a top of 36. Closer in, Donvale also felt warm. It reached 34 there. In the city, we almost hit 36 degrees, just shy of the predicted 37, but it was still much warmer than usual for this time of year. Today, almost all of our suburbs had a 3 in front of them. Laverton reached 37, but after the cool change swept through from about 5 p.m, we saw temperatures dramatically dip back down into the 20s. Tonight, expect the mercury to drop steadily throughout the evening. We should be down to 20 by 11 p.m, and then we'll stay in the high teens all night. The hottest temperatures today were in the north of the state. Mildura reached a sweltering 43 degrees. Tomorrow we're looking a little cooler. It'll be cloudy and mild in the south and dry and partly cloudy in the north. Closer in, there could be a possible morning shower, followed by cloudy skies. In the city, from a low of 17, will only rise a few degrees to a top of 21. Tomorrow's milder conditions will give us a taste of what's to come this week, with temperatures in the 20s all week long. We'll start the working week on a top of 23 before a shower or two on Tuesday. The city could get up to 8 millimetres, and on Wednesday we're looking cloudy with another top of 23. It's a similar story on Thursday with a shower or two. But tomorrow will feel much more comfortable than today, and from a low of 17 we're headed for a top of 21. So Mike, that burst of hot weather was rather short-lived.
Yeah, thank goodness for that. Thanks, Estelle. And that's 7 News for this Saturday. We're off to the G now for the D's and the Dogs clash.
For now, from the 7 News team, take care. Good night.